excited for this video. A little bit of a backstory first. So it was Friday morning, and the little lady and I were getting ready for a quick weekend getaway. We went to Laughlin, Nevada. I'd never been there. So I'm all packed up, ready to go, and just checked my phone real quick because I saw a notification for a YouTube comment came in, and boom! The man himself, Brad Lang, one of the two bassists on the Lexicon of Love album, made a comment on my recent Poison Arrow video. I was totally blown away. So let's get right into it. I don't think you'll see me for the rest of this video, so hello, nice to see you. Let's get into it. Let's switch to the computer. Okay, you might hear a little bit of noise here as I put the keyboard out of the way. So excuse me for 1 second. This will give me a little breathing room here. All right. I've made the text a little bit bigger, but for those of you who cannot read it, I am going to read Brad Lang's comment. Hi there, Zuma. Just to set the record straight, I played both fretless and fretted bass on all of the Lexicon of Love album. Apart from the two tracks, Poison Arrow and Tears Are Not Enough. However, I did play bass on the 12-inch remix of Poison Arrow, and you're right, no overdub pops, it was all played in one take. Kind regards, Brad Lang. Woo! Man, I tried to convey my excitement in my reply to him, as you can see down there below. Now, the reason I played Be Near Me in the beginning there on piano was, now I know that Be Near Me was not on the Lexicon of Love album, but Be Near Me is the song that introduced me to Brad Lang. Way back when I was a kid, I heard that. I don't even know if I knew it was fretless, but man, especially during that last chorus when he's hitting those, high, really, wow notes on the fretless, especially when he goes to that F sharp. Wow, I was just in love with that. I still am. I love that part of the song, my favorite part of the song. And so anyhow, obviously it wasn't till much later that I realized, okay, this is some dude named Brad Lang. But anyhow, back to the comment. Let's dissect it. Let's take a look at the additional questions it brings up. As usual with these things, we get clarity on something and then we get a whole bunch of other questions. So first and foremost, let me point something out so that you don't get confused too. This is not Brad Lang. It is a gentleman named Brad Lang, and he is also a bassist. But this is, let's call him hard rock Brad Lang, who played with YNT for a bit back in 2010 when their bassist unfortunately passed away. So yeah, this is not the Brad Lang we're talking about. There's not a lot of information on ABC Brad Lang. This is Brad Lang from Gately, Hampshire. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Gately, looks like Gately to me. Gately, Hampshire. Okay. So that's Brad Lang, and there's not a lot of info out there about him. Okay, now that we've clarified that, let's go back. Okay, so Brad says he played on all of the Lexicon of Love album, apart from Poison Arrow and Tears Are Not Enough. Okay, we'll get to the second part of the comment, but let's just talk about that. Okay, so here we are at good old Wikipedia, and personnel listed: ABC, Mark Lickley, bass guitar 2, 4, and 6. We'll take a look at what 2, 4, and 6 are in a sec. Additional personnel, so basically the hired hands, right? The badasses. We have Brad Lang, bass guitar. Okay, so 2, 4, and 6. If we go up to the album version, just the regular album, we have 2, Poison Arrow, 4, Tears Are Not Enough, and 6, The Look of Love. Now, in his comment, Brad Lang doesn't mention The Look of Love, and I think he doesn't mention it because, as far as I can tell, The Look of Love, original album version, is a synth bass. If there is a bass guitar, an electric bass guitar doubled in there, I can't hear it. It's very subtle. So I think that's why Brad didn't mention it. Now, here's another thing that's really interesting. Tracks 2, 4, and 6, and by extension, track 10, The Look of Love Part 4, which is nothing more than the sort of reprise of, orchestral reprise of Look of Love, all give writing credit to Mark Lickley. So it seems like perhaps Mark put his foot down on those and said, well, if you're going to replace me, fine. If I'm not going to record the entire album, you're bringing in this Brad guy, fine. But I had a hand in writing Poison Arrow, Tears Are Not Enough, and The Look of Love, so I'm playing bass on those. I'm totally making that up. Maybe if Mark is out there, he can clarify. And speaking of that whole situation, let's call it, let's go to this SOS article, and I'll try to read the relevant section here. This is an interview or a discussion, I suppose, about the ABC album, The Lexicon of Love, and Trevor Horn. Okay. Controversially, however, before work began, Horn suggested that the band replace bassist Mark Lickley with Brad Lang. I talked them into getting a better bass player, which maybe wasn't a kind thing to do, admits the producer. I thought that they needed someone more like Bernard Edwards on the bass, and that it would slow the whole process down enormously if we didn't have that. It wasn't very fair on the guy who'd been in the band, and in fact, it lost me the U2 gig. Bass players in other bands would kind of be a bit scared of me, but Brad Lang was quite brilliant. He was a combination of Bernard Edwards and Jaco Pastorius. When I asked them to come along and play with them, they got it straight away. So, yeah, kind of sucks for Mark. I guess the end result speaks for itself. And hey, that happens. Even as a professional musician, even as someone who's in the band, you could easily be told, hey, you know what? This is taking too long. We're going to have somebody else do it. Or, it happens all the time. Okay, so that's that. So let's get back to the video comment. Okay, so I think we've cleared that up. I think it's quite clear that Brad played fretted and fretless, and on which tracks he played on. And I bring up the fretted and fretless thing because in this old thread at basschat.co.uk, which is, to my understanding, like the UK version of talkbass.com. I mean, Talkbass is everywhere. It's, international. But, I think this is what Talkbass is, if you're just going to sing a lot, UK bass players. Okay, so anyway, there are other comments that kind of believe, or lead you to believe that they believed what I believed, which was that all the beautiful fretless was Brad, and that all the fretted was Mark. Take a look at this, what this cat says here. The fretted parts are attributed to Lickley, although there are some sources that state that Trevor Horn, who produced Lexicon, did all the fretted parts, which is also believable. And there's other things, that allude to that in this thread. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but anyway, so yeah, I think we can put a couple of things to rest. What tracks he played on, and that he didn't just play the fretless parts. He did both fretted and fretless. Okay, on to the second part of the comment. However, I did play bass on the 12-inch remix of Poison Arrow, and you're right, no overdub pops. It was all played in one take. Okay, so in my video for Poison Arrow, I was pointing out that you shouldn't worry so much about trying to do the pop-in, or the pluck-in, as I like to call it, at the same time as your fingerstyle part, because clearly some of it has been overdubbed. And what I mentioned in the video was that there was a version out there where it sounded like it was played straight through, but I don't think it's the version that Brad's talking about when he says, however, I did play bass on the 12-inch remix. I think what he was talking about is this, which was originally released on vinyl as ABC New Remix Poison Arrow. And I'll play a clip of it in a second. But what I was talking about was this. Now, I'm sure this is, this is obviously a compilation of something, but there's not a lot of information about this re-recording. I'm not sure who played bass on it. So that's an additional question. Brad, if you're out there, I have two questions. When you said 12-inch remix, did you mean this? I'm pretty sure you did. Question number two, who played on this one? Let's listen to a second of it.
To you, can you keep a secret? Would you know just what to do or where to keep it?
So it's a fabulous re-recording, but nonetheless, it is a re-recording, and I want to know who played bass on it. And this is what I was talking about in my Poison Arrow video earlier, when I said that this version is played all the way through, no overdub on the top, pops, the plugin. Now, this version, I believe, kind of got renamed along the way. The version that I believe Brad played on, what was called the New Remix US 12-inch, I believe is now referred to as, where are we here? As this one, track 15 on the deluxe version of Lexicon, called Poison Arrow Jazz Mix. I'll listen to a second of it here.
Then I say I love you, foul the situation.
I got ahead of myself. So I had it queued up on the last track, which is Poison Arrow live at Hammersmith Odeon. And that's from 1982, according to Wikipedia down here. Right here. But back to what I was talking about, track 15. So this is what I think Brad is referring to, the now jazz mix. So clearly it's a different bass. It's definitely got that Jacko back pickup tilt happening there. So it's very believable that that is what Brad was talking about. And now let's go to the live version, because that's also a very Jacko-esque tone. And that one is thumped too. I don't think that's fingerstyle. That really sounds like he's thumping it. So again, the two questions. Brad, did you mean that you played on 15 Poison Arrow Jazz Mix? And hey, were you also the live bassist for Poison Arrow, or was that Mark? Or was that a third yet unknown bassist? We know that much later, Nick Beggs played with a different version of ABC, but this was way back, 82. He was busy being Kashagugu back then. So we're not talking about Nick Beggs. I want to know who played here, live at Hammersmith Odeon in 1982. November 1982 to be a little more specific. So, yeah, lots of things to unpack and a couple more questions for Brad. Hey, if you're out there, I'd love to hear from you again. And just got to say one more time, Brad, thank you for commenting, and you are a badass. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.